what are the 2 or 3 dynamics of the retailer market that you think are having the largest impact on the sector in the UK?
The first one has been the consolidation of the industry in recent years. Now, the top 4 retailers are accounting for about 70% of the market, which means they're incredibly powerful. So from a supplier perspective, that's a challenge. But within that, the fastest growing parts of the business are online and the convenience channel, which themselves bring challenges for suppliers, particularly in terms of what range and assortment can be stocked. But the big one within there is discounters. Discounters have made a huge inroad into the UK market, particularly people like Aldi have created fantastically priced products that are really great quality. And retailers are looking to react to that. They're looking to match them, they're looking to copy them, and applying a lot of pressure on suppliers, particularly on price, to try and achieve that. And that's really led to a short-termism in the market, where the discussions are becoming ever more aggressive, short-term, price-focused, and the more medium, longer term and the value creation agenda is getting lost in my experience and in my research.
What advice would you give to a fast-moving consumer goods manufacturer to create and capture value with retailers in the current context?
I think the first thing is around the segmentation of their customers and account prioritization and segmentation. In my research, I could see that lots of suppliers were doing this, but not living the consequences of the segmentation. And I think that's the first big learning, an insight that I took, which is if you're going to do the segmentation, you understand the implications of it and you live by it because you've done it for a reason and not just discard it. Once you've done that, I think creating value in this market is really about how do you create value for the end consumer and shopper. And to do that, you have to understand who those people are. You have to understand where they're shopping and what their needs are. And being ruthless in creating the focus on that and not getting distracted by the short term, and being assertive if you're trying to be distracted from that in the short term, which means not being afraid to stop the discussion and pause the discussion with the retailer if you're not able to execute those value creation activities. If you know they're right and you're talking to the retailer that you want to talk to and they don't want to do that work with you, again, from my research findings, people were reluctant to stop or to pause. They should pause and they should stop, which will then enable them to come back or reinvest elsewhere, relook for new partners where they can create the value.
What are the keys for effective collaboration in these value-conscious supply chain?
There are a number of areas that came out of the research that were important, I think, in terms of how do you build value, how do you create value, how do you capture value for a supplier. Touched on one already, which is around segmentation and knowing who the right partners were. The next one around focusing on the consumer shopper and creating strategies is the area of category management, which is taking a total category view and saying, how can we help and support grow the whole category with a customer so that the shopper consumer gets the things that they want and we can both win from it. So having a capability in category management that you can partner with a retailer and execute is really important. The other one that's emerging and is growing in complexity is this idea of omni-channel. Omni-channel meaning there are multiple channels that consumers and shoppers shop in and also research in, and they move in and out of these channels at will. And this is a complex thing to manage. The winners into the future, I think, are those retailers and suppliers who create capability in that area that says we can understand who these shoppers are, where they're shopping, their barriers and triggers to shopping, and we can create value creation strategies, we can create tactics, we can create executions that meet their needs. And we have an organization that's capable of doing that. And I think for the future, that's going to be one of the key areas, how to become competent in omni-channel and particularly omni-channel category management.
Final question. The title of your upcoming book is How to Save the FMCG Industry. Please tell us, what are the key insights and the idea behind the title?
From my research, what was clear was the challenges that suppliers are currently facing in trying to collaborate with retail customers, the challenges that they are facing in terms of creating and capturing value. And one of the big drivers behind that is this never-ending loop of lower price demands from retailers who are trying to match discounters and at the same time reducing assortments. And in a way, this is a doom loop or a downward spiral that will ultimately be self-fulfilling in terms of shoppers get less interested in retailers who have fewer ranges. All they've got to talk about is price. So suppliers won't want to invest in creating value because what's the point? And this will just go around into a vicious circle. I don't think it's an unsolvable issue. I think that with the right mindset, with the right skills and capabilities from the supplier perspective, they can start to change this discussion and this debate, and they can show retailers another way where they can differentiate themselves from their competition, and they can better meet the consumer shopper needs with the help of the supplier, with the resources of the supplier, and start to build value back into categories and build value back into businesses. So my title is really around how can we avoid that doom loop, and how can we use the incredible skill resources of the industry together to create a better future, particularly for consumers and shoppers, who are ultimately the end point for this. They're the ones who are demanding better, quicker, greater inspiration in many categories that they shop in.